I'm trying to get back into painting some actual art pieces. And I have a couple of old semi-paintings and semi-drawings that I want to remake. So I'm going to remake all of these into something hopefully nice looking. And I'm going to start by repainting this bunny. Now you might be asking why I want to repaint this bunny. After all, I kind of like it. Well, it's because I also kind of hate it. I feel like when we start out drawing, we have this concept that someday we're just going to know what to do and we will be happy with our art. But I feel like that day never really comes. Instead, I sit here with my art piece and I wonder why I decided to leave this white space in the picture. I mean, it looks bad. I don't know what I was thinking. Not to mention that the stuff that is interesting in this image are the small details. So why did I decide to paint such a small painting? But as I said, I can remake this piece and fix it. So I pop it into Procreate and I draw on top of the old image. And I can also make it significantly larger and fill in that white space and make a nice little hill instead. Now, hopefully I'll finally be happy with it. What sucks is that whenever you start out, you feel hopeful. There's a lot of possibilities, a lot of things that you can get right. And I kind of like the line art I have here. But soon enough, the issues start. How much pigment should I add for each layer of watercolor? I literally don't know. And it looks bad. When you're doing it, it doesn't quite feel like there's a right and wrong choice. It never feels like you're following a recipe. It's always just guessing the right decision. So I see this and I'm wondering, was this really the right choice? Was this a good color? The tricky thing with any painting is that good decisions can still feel bad while you're making them. It looks bad now, but it will work out. I mean, it tends to always work out. And it's at this point that I go back with some colored pencils and add some inked outlines to make it pop. And yeah, it kind of does. And when I continue, it eventually starts to get kind of decent, I guess. But eventually when you're at this point, especially when looking back to an old painting, and you compare that stage with this one, it kind of feels like you actually got worse with time. I mean, I've spent 10 hours on this painting so far, and it just doesn't look as good as this. So at this point, I kind of can't stand looking at it, but I kind of have to finish. So I'll give it a last push. Now, I actually painted this painting quite a while ago, and I think when I got to this stage, I was just kind of hopeless about it, so I stopped recording the process. But I did actually finish it, and if we look at the final image, it kind of looks the same, just more polished. It just took me another 10 hours, twice the time I had already spent, just to fix the image that was already there. And now when I sit with it for a bit, I still question all my choices. Like, why did I pick this brown or this green? They're not that kind of nice, they're kind of boring. And I also don't quite know why I picked all of these kind of muddy yellows for the mushrooms. And if I go really in and look closely on the bunny fur, all I see is the past mistakes that I covered up with a darker brown pencil. They're kind of poorly hidden if you look closely. I guess what I mean to say is that I kind of like it now, but I also kind of hate it. Now, to be fair, I do think this one is better than the old one. I didn't get worse, so that's something. In some regards, I kind of like the idea of repainting your old art. You get to kind of capture what was good about your piece while removing some of the flaws. But I also think there's this small downside to it. You might also end up repainting stuff that probably shouldn't have been repainted. Much like the bunny, I painted this one quite a while back. And much like the bunny, there are things I don't like about it. Now, I kind of like this idea of a quirky baboon with a briefcase, but I have no idea what I was thinking making the most boring mailbox in the universe. Like, this image is frankly a cute idea wrapped in the most unimaginative environment. Here once again in Procreate we can see me repainting this mailbox, and this is kind of how the mailbox should have looked. And in the process of redoing this, I end up with something closer to what this painting should have been. And just like with the bunny painting, I take one of these really large papers and I get to work. And by all accounts, it kind of works. The mailbox is cute, the colors work great, the entire process goes kind of smooth. I end up kind of struggling when drawing the baboon. I knew I would struggle with it, so I left it for last, which is frankly a really bad idea. But by the end of it, I sit with this painting. Now, I can quite confidently say that I'm not the biggest fan of the colors I ended up with choosing for the baboon's face. It's kind of realistic, but it's also a bit red and cold feeling. We can frankly compare it with the old baboon face. It's brighter and more warm. But I think more than that, I just kind of feel annoyed looking at this. I spent probably more than 20 hours painting this, and I'm just not sure it should have been repainted. I like the mailbox, but at the end of the day, this is a really big painting that is just not that interesting. It's technically proficient, but I think in hindsight, it does at times feel kind of wasteful repainting stuff you don't like that much to begin with. I guess the benefit is that even when you waste time creating art you don't like, you do learn things. So when I started repainting this lemur playing a piano, as soon as I had started painting the first few splashes of paint, I started working on the actual animal. After all, painting the animal is the most difficult part for a painting like this. So getting it over with and making sure that it looks decent, it's just nicer for my peace of mind. You see, I really struggled painting the bunny, but after having done 2 paintings, now when it came to the lemur, I feel like I kind of partly figured out how to capture the balance between watercolor and inking. And after having painted 3 of these now, I feel like I've at least gotten quicker at painting. Even if it's not necessarily better, I've at least gotten quicker at making it to a decent standard. This lemur is also a piece I was fairly happy with remaking. The original lemur just kind of became goofy looking because of how small the piece was. I mean, look at this face, it's actually ugly, which is partly due to skill, but this is also really tiny. But now I would say that the lemur looks quite decent, and the colors came out better. All of this to say, I do think there's something valuable to repainting old art. Sometimes you'll hate it, other times you'll like it. But more than that, you have an easier time comparing the choices you made. So you have an easier time comparing what works from what doesn't. Thanks for watching. Bye.